The Supreme Court of the Philippines functions as the ultimate arbiter for jurisdictional disputes and the application of procedural rules throughout the country. The facts of GR number 206761 began in 2005 when Paul Ambrose, a United States citizen, married Luella Suque Ambrose, a Filipina, in Manila. 2 years later, Paul filed a petition for the declaration of nullity of that marriage. He cited Article 36 of the Family Code, alleging psychological incapacity. A procedural anomaly emerged during the trial phase. Luella did not appear or participate in the proceedings, leaving Paul to present his evidence alone. Despite the lack of opposition from the respondent, the Regional Trial Court of Quezon City dismissed the petition. This dismissal did not address the merits of the psychological incapacity claim. Instead, the judge initiated a structural challenge to Paul's standing to sue. When a trial court dismisses an uncontested petition on its own motion regarding standing, it creates a roadblock that prevents any judicial examination of the underlying marriage contract. The RTC's rationale was that Paul lacked the legal capacity to sue, specifically because he is an American citizen. To justify this, the judge turned to the nationality principle in Article 15 of the Civil Code. It states family laws follow Filipino citizens abroad. The RTC applied this in reverse, concluding foreign citizenship prevents access to Philippine family law. The RTC extrapolated from this that a foreigner exists outside the coverage of Philippine family laws, effectively stripping them of standing in local courts. This specific interpretation represents a structural error. The RTC used the nationality principle to block judicial access for a party whose marriage was celebrated within the Philippines. If this logic held, no foreign national could utilize Philippine courts to adjudicate the validity of a marriage contract executed on Philippine soil. Before the Supreme Court could address the RTC's logic, they had to resolve a procedural lapse by the petitioner. After the dismissal, Paul filed a notice of appeal, but he failed to first file a motion for reconsideration with the trial court. Section 21 of the rules governing marital nullity cases strictly requires a motion for reconsideration before an appeal can proceed. Because of this misstep, the RTC denied the appeal, effectively killing the case on technical grounds. The Supreme Court intervened by invoking its equity jurisdiction to relax these procedural requirements. The court chose to disregard the lapse because the lower court's dismissal was based solely on a flawed interpretation of legal capacity, which had denied the parties a trial on the actual merits. The justices determined that the RTC's error reverting conflict of laws was significant enough to justify overriding strict procedural deadlines to ensure the law was correctly applied. The Supreme Court's first substantive correction focused on the governing law for the marriage contract. They stated that the validity of a marriage and the capacity to sue for its nullity are not dictated exclusively by the nationality principle. Instead, the court applied the doctrine of lex loci celebrationis, translating to the law of the place of ceremony. A contract's validity is judged by the jurisdiction where executed. Under Article 26 of the Family Code, marriages celebrated in the Philippines are absorbed into local jurisdiction, regardless of the parties' nationalities. A petition for nullity under Article 36 is a direct challenge to the validity of that local contract. The court reasoned that since the contract was created under Philippine law, any dispute regarding its initial validity must be resolved using Philippine law. This does not abandon the nationality principle, but it prevents that principle from shielding a local contract from local judicial review. The geographical location where the vows were exchanged gives the foreign spouse the right to invoke Philippine law to address that specific contract. The Supreme Court then addressed the RTC's confusion regarding the term capacity under the rules of civil procedure. Rule 3, Section 1 defines legal capacity. It refers to a general disability, like minority or insanity, preventing a person from exercising civil rights. None apply to Paul. This is distinct from legal personality under Rule 3, Section 2. Personality refers to being a real party in interest, the person who will be directly benefited or injured by the court's judgment. The court ruled that as a spouse, Ambrose's personal civil status is the subject of the suit, granting him clear legal personality. A husband possesses a material interest in the nullification of his own marriage contract. The RTC conflated the test for a specific interest in a case with the test for a general legal disability. It incorrectly treated foreign citizenship as a form of incompetence, comparable to minority or insanity. Finally, the court examined the text of the rule governing nullity petitions, Section 2 of AM number 02-11-10-SC. The rule states that a petition may be filed, quote, solely by the husband or the wife. The text contains no qualifiers regarding the citizenship or nationality of those parties. This invokes the maxim, ubi lex non distinguit, nec nos distinguit debebus. Where the law does not distinguish, the courts should not distinguish. Judges cannot insert a citizens-only requirement into a procedural rule that plainly grants standing to any husband or wife. Consequently, the Supreme Court reversed and set aside the RTC's decision. The case was remanded to the Quezon City RTC for a trial on the merits of the psychological incapacity claim. Standing was restored through the location of the ceremony, the material interest of the spouse, and the literal text of the procedural rules. The nationality principle cannot function as a shield to prevent local legal scrutiny of a marriage celebrated in the Philippines. Ambrose v. Suque Ambrose ensures that Philippine courts remain open to adjudicate the validity of marriages celebrated on Philippine soil, regardless of the petitioner's nationality.